There are days on the road when we will eat 12 meals in a single day. We do not consume all of 12 meals. We sit down for 12 meals.
I always have a plastic bag, and if we can't finish the meal, I just dump it into my purse.
Renowned food writers Jane and Michael Stern today on Now I've Heard Everything. I'm Joel Thompson. Well, most couples enjoy doing things together, camping or traveling or eating out. Now, Jane and Michael Stern took their love of restaurant food and travel and combined them to make a career, starting in 1977 with the publication of their book, Road Food, which turned America on to all the little diners and out-of-the-way spots that don't get the attention of the big glossy food magazines. Now, that book and all the rest that followed really showed us the little diners, the out-of-the-way spots, the mom-and-pop places where a home-cooked meal ruled and where local recipes were the order of the day. Now, Jane and Michael Stern wrote some 30 books altogether, including a 2006 joint memoir called Two for the Road. They and I sat down that spring to talk about it. In just a moment, our conversation.
This is one of the more than 10,000 interviews that noted radio personality Bill Thompson did over a 30-year span. Sit back and relax, unless you're driving, in which case, keep your eyes on the road.
So here now, from 2006, Jane and Michael Stern.
We figure that we've written about one book per automobile that we've owned over the years. And as you know, we've traveled over 3 million miles, so we've used a lot of cars as well.
Did you ever think, all these years ago when you started this, that this would be like a lifelong occupation for you?
No.
Absolutely not.
We were playing hooky.
Right. Michael and I met in graduate school, and he was getting a PhD not in road food, but in art history, and I was getting a postgraduate degree in fine arts. And I can guarantee you there were two sets of parents after graduation who expected us to go into academia, and instead we got in our VW and hit the road.
And as soon as we hit the road, we were smitten. I mean, as soon as we found some really great meals, I remember our first trip was down to Virginia. We found a little hamlet, a little town cafe where the locals ate, and we knew this was our destiny.
Now, Hamlet, we should point out, is not a small ham.
That's
nor
a
an omelet. A small hamlet with great omelets.
I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm guessing you probably had a meal of one kind or another in just about every little bend in the road somewhere in every state in America, haven't you?
We're trying to.
Yeah, we came a long way from the first edition of Road Food, which came out in 1978, where we actually left out Nebraska and Montana, and we thought nobody would notice. We've gotten a lot better.
There are days on the road when we will eat 12 meals in a single day.
I was wondering about that. How does one eat 12 meals in a day? I have trouble sometimes eating, and look at the size of me. I have some trouble sometimes eating 3.
Well, let me put it this: we do not consume all of 12 meals. We sit down for 12 meals. Probably 6 to 7 or 8 of those are not worth writing about or remembering.
In Two for the Road, which is our newest book, we tell all the secrets behind doing road food for all these many years. And one of our secrets is that in my purse, I always have a plastic Glad bag or Hefty bag. And if we can't finish the meal, I just dump it into my purse. Now, this works very well, Bill, except if you're eating ribs, lobster, or clams, and then the waitress comes over and there's nothing on the plate. You say, oh, man, those bones and shells, I loved them.
We just say you take them home for the kids. They make little necklaces.
Yes, out of lobster shells, yes.
We don't buy them toys. We're too cheap. They have to have clam shells.
They play with our leftovers.
But the thing of it is, we keep hearing year after year about the homogenization of America, how every place you go looks exactly like every other place you go, thanks in large part to, they say, the chain restaurants, the fast food places, the Hardee's, Arby's, running down the line. You guys go out of your way to find the places that aren't the chains, the homogenized kind of places.
And the good news is that while they may be endangered by the kind of fast food that you're talking about, they're not extinct, and I don't think they're going to be. We Americans really treasure our great regional food in a way that we never used to.
In Two for the Road, I think one of the chapters that is my personal favorite is our adventures in Havana, North Dakota. Population 94. And the best food you could ever imagine, all cooked by the farmers and their wives of the town in truly the middle of nowhere.
Oh, gee. Well, I'm guessing in the case like that, I'm guessing maybe in a lot of small towns, there is no corporate entity dictating what the menu is. It happens to be what mom and pop in the back beside the menu was.
Exactly. And in Havana, North Dakota, it is literally a communal enterprise. Different townspeople cook on different days at the cafe. And, the town cafe went out of business there several years ago. And the reason they started this communal enterprise was they realized, they can cook at home, they can eat at home, but what they can't get at home is the sense of community that you get in a small town cafe.
Now, plus, if you've spent all your time eating at Red Lobster or Olive Garden or, the big chains, you would miss some of the great restaurant bloopers that we put
bloopers.
Right into Two for the Road. My favorite at the moment is spinning salad bowel with your choice of dressing.
Or you could have a sandwich of sliced cold cats.
Or mushu pork with 4 creeps. You can't get that on a corporate menu.
No, that's true. Now, that's not to say, is it that we would never see you in Applebee's?
You probably
will
wouldn't.
never see us.
No.
I mean,
we've eaten in each of those chains one time and one time only, and we never
Just to see
felt
what it
the
was
need
like?
to return. Yeah. We really hate those places. They're so what we're not about. We're about finding the real, genuine
in fact,
restaurant.
people often say, Stearns, if you could have one last meal, where would you go? And I hate to say it, but it would probably be Outback for that blooming onion, because after eating it, I would want to die happily.
It is quite a, now, I couldn't help wondering how many of the big chains have gotten ideas for some of their most popular menu items from exactly the kind of places that you guys visit.
Well, the whole idea of comfort food and American classics, you see that on a lot of fast food menus. And I think that really comes from the road food kind of restaurant and them realizing that people love that sort of place, but you cannot recreate it in a corporate environment.
Mm-hmm. Well, as soon as you start watering it down by committee, then it becomes something very different from what you might have found in the original wide spot in the road.
It's just so strange. When we started doing this back in the early 70s, the only place you could get buffalo chicken wings was in Buffalo, New York at the Anchor Bar. Now they're everywhere. And somebody told me that fried dill pickles are now starting to pop up on menus all around the country.
Delta, yes. We're the other thing about these great restaurants that we discover is it's not just the food, it's the people. It's the waitress who chased me out of one place with a broom once because I said I didn't like the mashed potatoes. I mean, the whole experience of dining in these places is so fresh and so different and so American.
So what do you like best about there's lots of things, obviously, that you find enjoyable, but is there one thing that you really look forward to that if that isn't right, the whole visit hasn't gone right?
Boy, that's an interesting question. I would probably have to say the first page of Two for the Road talks about our courtship in the 1960s over white clam pizza at Pepe's Pizzeria in New Haven. Now, we go back there all the time, and if that crust is a millimeter too thick or the clam is not the teeniest, weeniest little gem in a shell, I have to take to my bed. It is just a disaster.
Well, all right, that's the thing. Part of the homogenization of America is the uniformity, that a Big Mac in Boston tastes exactly like a Big Mac in San Francisco. When you go back to individual mom-and-pop restaurants, greasy spoons, whatever we're calling them today, is there can you even expect consistency from one visit to the next?
Oh, you can expect consistency from one generation to the next, because these recipes are precious commodities to these people. They are passed down and treasured, and you could never pry the recipe, for example, for the cherry pie they serve at the Cherry Hut in Beulah, Michigan, from that family.
Now, also don't forget, because we do have a website, roadfood.com, we've got tens of thousands of eyes spying on these people because our readers tell us if what we wrote about is not the experience they had. So we're pretty on top of things.
After this short break, more adventures on the road from Jane and Michael Stern.
Are you enjoying this conversation so far?
And would you like to get a copy of the book we're talking about?
Just tap the link in our show notes or visit our website, heardeverything.com.
When you make a purchase through our affiliate links, you're also supporting this podcast.
And we thank you for your support.
Now back to my 2006 conversation with Jane and Michael Stern.
Now, do you ever find yourself you're driving like between Houston and Dallas and you say, oh, remember that place we went to about 10 years ago? Let's go. And you find out now it's a shopping mall or something?
Oh, it happens. It's the saddest thing about what we do is to discover a wonderful little place that nobody else knows about except the locals, and then to go back there and realize it's become...
On the other hand, last week we were in South Tucson, which is a whole city unto itself. It's not just the southern part of Tucson. And one of our favorite little hole-in-the-wall places, Pico de Gallo, best Mexican food in the entire universe. Still there, still thriving, lines around the block, and the best horchata, which is that sweetened rice milk, you will ever have.
And that will never change. I guarantee it.
You know, isn't it funny how people, when they're on vacation, they find a place like that, they'll talk about it for years and years and years in a way that you'd never talk about, bless their hearts, Outback or someplace like that.
Well, it's our contention that the best way to savor your travels is literally to savor your travels in the food that you eat and the places you eat it.
You know, we've had people tell us over the years that they take our book Road Food, or Two for the Road, the new one, and actually like plot out their vacations going from restaurant to restaurant, and they have the owner sign the review, which is great.
Well, I have to tell you, I visited, there's a little place to get chili in San Juan Capistrano. It's like a half a block from the Mission, you know, where all the swallows come back. Best chili I've ever eaten in my life. And I've been telling people about it for almost 20 years.
Now, when you say chili, what do you mean?
With meat.
With meat?
With meat.
Beans?
Meat and beans and...
You would be excommunicated from Texas for eating this chili.
Probably, yeah.
No, New Mexico.
And New Mexico as well.
Because there, when you say chili, they mean just the puree of the vegetable. So if you say, give me a bowl of chili, you just get a bowl of pureed vegetable with nothing in it.
But that's the fun of this, is that you could start a civil war over, for example, the best barbecue. North Carolina, Texas, Kentucky, each has their own very definite opinion of what it ought to be.
I'm guessing it's also quite an adventure to see what different restaurants will call essentially the same dish. You know, and at one place it's called, you know, goulash. Another place it's called, you know, mom's best hash. You know, that kind of thing.
Like
and
a hoagie, a hero, a torpedo, a sub,
grinder, a zap.
Grinder, a zeppel. I know what you mean.
But aside from that, then I'm guessing the flip side of that is you see something on the menu and think, oh, I know exactly what they mean by that. And the plate comes out and you think, what's that? It's not what I ordered.
If we say "what's that," then we usually get up and leave. That's not a
Not a
keeper.
good sign.
If I can't identify it as a food group
you know where
that I know.
that's absolutely true, though, is in the upper Midwest, you see on the menu hot roast beef sandwich. Sounds kind of boring. Well, it's anything but boring. It is the specialty up there. It is the tenderest pot roast infused with this luscious gravy. You eat it with a knife and fork, and it is the dish up there. It's such the dish that they serve it at weddings as the special occasion meal.
And it's just called either hot beef or hot dish. I mean, what is less appetizing than, would you like some hot dish? You know, no.
But it's great.
It is great, though.
Why is the phrase world famous a bad sign?
It means that they're way too worried about their image and not worried enough about what they're serving. We avoid almost any restaurant that claims to be world famous.
Yeah, world famous to me conjures up images of 15 tour buses, you know, dispersing their passengers all at once for the twofer or the early bird special. I mean, you know, that's terrific, you know, if that's your thing. But I would much rather go, what was that great place on the James River that we just found, which was so unique?
It was a herring shack called the Cypress Inn, literally built out of cypress logs. It's open only from January through April when the herring run up the James River. And this has been there for decades. And it's the same wonderful meal. If you're a fish frowner, don't bother to go because there is no alternative for you. That's what they have on the menu, and people love it.
And they ask you if you want it sunny side up, which means just partially cooked or cremated, which means blackened.
Oh, gee. Is there any place you're dying to go that you haven't gotten around to getting to yet?
Oh boy, that's a really
We have a
interesting
long
question.
list of places that we're dying to go. We're always discovering things. We just recently heard that in upstate New York, nearly at the Canadian border, there is a whole special kind of chili dog known inexplicably as a Michigan. Why it's called a Michigan and why it's in upstate New York, we have no idea, but that's next on our hit list
I
of
want
things
to go to
discover.
San Juan Capistrano and
I wanna
get
try that chili of yours.
chili.
Well, let me ask you something else. I mean, you talk about how food has changed over the years. I mean, we've seen kind of the fusion thing, and now, pico de gallo is on every table along with the mustard and the ketchup and everything like this. You must have seen vast, not just fads, but a lot of trends moving in and changing what you eat.
Well, the hot food, I mean, sort of coming northward from the border, you get a lot of spice and excitement. I mean, and that happens as people come into the country as well as the food.
And of course, the great wash out that we have seen since we started our food career is, do you remember when continental cuisine was what everybody aspired to? And it usually meant like frozen rock lobster tails with canned cream sauce on it. But now people are so proud of their American cuisine. One forgets that when the Kennedys were in the White House, the first thing they did was hire a French chef because American food was so déclassé. Now it's great. Now it's something I think we know it's a national treasure.
Oh, one other thing I want to touch on before we close, music. I mean, do most of the small restaurants you're talking about, do they just pipe in the radio, or do they have music, or do they have live entertainment, or is it all of the above?
We've been to a few with great live entertainment, but what we love to look for are those individual jukeboxes in every booth with a selection of terrific Hank Williams songs. I mean, if we see Hank Williams on the jukebox, we're almost sure we found a good
Or
place
my
to eat.
personal favorite, Texas brisket barbecue in these ancient old food grocery stores in Texas, where not only is there no music, the room tone is zero. It's just people chewing.
There is let me just say, there is no music, but there is a rhythm, because the rhythm is the guy back in the kitchen chopping meat. It's the most amazing thing. It's like you're in a church and you just hear chop, chop, chop.
And then you're,
Jane and Michael Stern are both 78 now. They divorced 2 years after this interview, and despite leading their separate lives now, they still write as a team. Now, you can get your copy of Two for the Road by Jane and Michael Stern by tapping the link in our show notes, by clicking the link in the description below if you're listening to this on YouTube, or by going to our website, heardeverything.com. We may earn an Amazon commission if you make a purchase. HeardEverything.com is where you can also find my 2004 conversation with Anthony Bourdain.
The way we order food in the restaurant business is, as much as we would like you to believe that we're down at the fish market sniffing fish every morning and squeezing vegetables at the produce market, in fact, most of us phone in our orders to answering machines late at night in a semi-drunken state.
And my 1991 conversation with the great Wolfgang Puck.
The best thing about making up a great dish is you get immediate recognition. People tell you, God, this is so wonderful. If you build a house, you have to wait 2 years. They're going to walk in and then I said, yeah, it's wonderful, but the roof leaks.
And of course, we post new episodes of Now I've Heard Everything every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and you can find us everywhere you find podcasts. Thank you so much for listening. Next time on Now I've Heard Everything, as part of our commemoration of Black History Month, my conversation with a well-known African-American actress turned novelist who based her first book on her experiences in the Deep South in the 60s. My 2005 conversation with Denise Nicholas.
Because I did go to Mississippi. It so impressed me, and it so probably affected who I am as a person, and I think that never subsided, that never changed. So I took that to Hollywood with me, too. That's just a part of who I am.
That's next time on Now I've Heard Everything. I'm Bill Thompson.